Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. My name is Luke Irvin, and today we've got an epic episode lined up for you. But before we jump into that, just want to let you guys know real quick, we've got some brand new merchandise up on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 new shirts as well. If you like today's episode, please also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our email newsletter. With nothing else to say, let's jump into today's episode. I am in Flagstaff here with a couple of ragtag brewers, salespeople, bunch of different hats being worn here. If you guys would, just go down the line. We can start here and introduce yourselves and who you're with.
All right, I am Zach Stoll. I am the head brewer for Historic Brewing.
My name is Ken Wilson. I'm the Director of Sales and Events at Lumberyard Brewing Company.
My name is Taylor Paffrath, and I am a brewer / front of house / wear a lot of different hats at Dark Sky.
Okay, nice. That's kind of the industry in general, right? Like, you weren't originally a brewer, were you, Zach?
I kind of was. So I started as an assistant brewer and then worked my way up through the company.
And so you've been on Tap That AZ podcast a couple of times, our sister-brother podcast, if you will.
Yes.
And that's where I met you. And, of course, Ken, known you for a long time. And you're a new friend of ours, but it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
And so we are here today to talk about Flagstaff Beer Week. It's coming up in about a month, a little bit more from this recording right now. And for those who are unaware, Arizona Beer Week is like the best time to enjoy Arizona beer in the state of Arizona. It's a celebration of all things in the community, collaborations, a bunch of exciting stuff. And of course, we got strong beer and many, many other events, which we'll talk about today. But how are you guys doing? What's going on in Flagstaff? It's snowing up here. Any fun beers or anything you guys got on right now?
Well, I feel like true to Dark Sky's kind of mentality is we wait to the last minute possible to get some things planned. So we don't have anything in the pipe works quite yet, but there's also always some cool stuff in the works as well. So it's anyone's guess what we may release for Beer Week. We'll just kind of see what happens.
Well, and you mentioned kind of jokingly a little bit, but also a little bit seriously, the nature of your guys' brewery. For someone who hasn't been to Dark Sky before, describe a little bit what you guys have going on there, both in terms of beer and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to find just about anything you want to drink. I mean, we always say that we've got a beer for everybody there. Right now, we're crushing a lot of different lagers. Really been enjoying having the new production facility up and having proper lager tanks to really crank out some really great lager beers. Besides that, I mean, you can always find some weird, funky sours that have been barrel-aged in various different barrels, or even, we just kicked our Astro Cookie Stout, which is a huge popular beer for people, conditioned on cream cookies. Can't say the name of the company, but I think you can make a guess of who it actually is. But yeah,
people like to dip them in milk and
yeah, I mean,
like that,
or beer, whatever you want to actually do. But
that sounds
you
fantastic.
can, again, hazy IPAs, lagers, you name it, we've got something for everybody at Dark Sky 90% of the time, I'd say.
And so your original location is right off like Birch and what?
So our main spot's on Beaver Street. It's the original tap house, we call it at this point. That's been there since 2014, 2015. We just recently expanded into the beer garden, which is on the corner of Birch and Beaver. So same, you share a back wall. If you were the Kool-Aid man and burst through a wall, you'd be in our beer garden. And that is kind of more of a traditional feel of what Dark Sky came from. Be able to walk in and grab a pint at the bar and then go sit down and hang out with your friends however you want. It's not quite the seated experience like you have at the original tap room with Pizzacletta being more like a restaurant style theme. So, but then the cool thing as well in the beer garden as well is we've got our Atmosphere Kitchen with Chef Joe Bob Roger, which anybody in Flagstaff's familiar with him with Shift and a couple other really cool restaurants. He's in there cooking up crazy stuff on a weekly basis, also incorporating beers that we brew in it whenever he can. So
we were over at the new spot as well as the original spot the other day, and he sent out some food for some photos and things like that. And I forget the exact name, but it's the Frippers sausages.
Yeah, Frippers Rippers.
Frippers Rippers,
yeah.
And then the Beets and Burrata.
Yep.
And, of course, some of your guys' wonderful sours and IPAs and things like that. That was my first time in there, and they whipped up the fire in one of the little barrel tables out front. It's just a really cool spot. Awesome vibes over there.
Yeah, we're really proud of it. It was a long time coming. Ryan and Laramie, the owners, have had their eyes on that building for a long time, and just the stars finally aligned, and they're able to get everything situated how they wanted to and open it up this past summer, and it's been doing really well for us so far.
Nice. And the production facility is relatively new as well, correct?
Yeah, so we also opened it up this summer as well, and we've been cranking out beers. I mean, it's a brand new facility, obviously. It's a 10-barrel brew house, 20-barrel fermenters, and a couple 20-barrel lager tanks in there. So really able to amp up almost triple the size of our current production at the tap room. So it's been doing well for us.
Very nice. And of course, Ken, part of one of the most historic breweries in Arizona. Despite the fact that we're at historic, you are not with historic.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about Lumberyard and Beaver Street. Give us a little bit of the background for those not in the know.
If you go back, the first brewing license in town was over at Beaver Street in 1994. And so we're coming up on 27 years this year, which would make it the oldest operating brewery in the state. So Prescott Brewing Company unfortunately shut down last year, and that kind of handed the title over to us. Not the way we'd like to get it, but it's certainly of note, and we've been producing world-class beers there ever since it opened up. Winnie and Evan Hanseth made a commitment to the city of Flagstaff and opened it up, and like I said, it was the first brewery license in town, so it was kind of cool. And then when the family looked to make a decision to get into distribution and open a larger restaurant, a little bit bigger footprint, the old Flag Lumber building came available, and that's one of the last standing railroad logging buildings south of the tracks. The front half was built in 1890 and the back half built in 1910. So it's got a really nice romantic story to it. It was a gathering space for people who were building out Coconino County in northern Arizona when it opened. And when it went dark, the Hanseth family put the money in to restore it and bring it back and create this new gathering space that we have again that's hosting people from northern Arizona and all across the country. So, it's nice too that, here in Flagstaff we get a lot of tourists, and, all of our places are kind of targets for that, for people to come in and see us. And I just think what we're brewing in Flagstaff, my guys here at Historic, thanks for hosting today, by the way.
No problem.
And Dark Sky's got great things going on, that we're a real, beer destination for people from around the world and around the country. So I'm just really proud of what we're doing here. Everybody who's here. So.
Well, and not only do you guys have great beer, but you're one of my favorite food spots as well, especially if you're up here skiing or something like that. It's like the perfect spot to go and get a nice hearty meal afterwards.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We always have a great burger special. The wings are great. You can always rely on those. And anytime I have friends coming up with their kids, I'm always like, make sure you get the pudding afterwards, because that's always a winner. Okay. That's a home run. Irish egg rolls. So there's a few things that people always kind of will say, oh yeah, I've had this or I've had that. And especially in the summer when you can use the patio, it's a nice spot. So I appreciate the kind words about that. I think we're doing a really nice job too. So thank you.
Yeah, I can vouch for the Irish egg rolls. They're one of my favorite things to get there.
There you go. All right, thank you.
Well, you've recommended them to Eric and I so many times, but for some reason we've never ended up getting them. And so Kelly sent them out yesterday when we were in your spot getting some food for photos and things like that. And man, they were fantastic.
Yeah. According to Ancestry.com, I'm 7% Irish. Maybe that's the reason I suggested it to so many people.
Yeah.
Because it's a heritage piece.
You kind of got a little bit of an Irish vibe going to you.
Yeah, there's a little bit there. I think it's mostly, Scotland and England, something like that. Anyway, not that anyone cares about that, but we can take that offline and we can talk about heritage.
Yeah, and we'll have to meet up for some Irish egg rolls sometime soon.
Sure.
So, Zach, talk a little bit about Historic, kind of a little bit about your history, and what kind of beers are you guys brewing? What are you doing over here?
Oh, man. I just try and do a little bit of everything. I personally love lagers, so I'm trying to push that heavier, but I don't always get what I want, so I have to make everybody happy. That's why we launched the Jack Wagon, hazy IPA last year. But besides that, our big thing we got going on right now is new construction over at the brewery.
Oh, nice.
It's not for beer production, but for our guests. We're adding another bathroom, which I lose my office, so y'all can enjoy. And we're putting in another bar so we can add some more seating as well and get some more big events going out there.
So last time I was up here and visited that spot, obviously you guys were open and it was a tap room and whatnot. You had to kind of shut that down for a little bit, and now it's back open, correct?
And shut down again. So before we had to shut it down, we didn't have proper fire suppression systems going. So we got that in, and we started back open for about 8 months or so. And now the opportunity came for this new construction, so we jumped on it so that way we can have just a more comfortable space for everybody.
Sure. Well, and it must be on its way to being very comfortable, because I always love stopping by that spot.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a favorite of the locals, especially. They don't necessarily want to come downtown, and it's great for all the beer nerds too. Actually, want to see where the beer is made. It's very friendly out there, or small, intimate, we'll say.
Sure. Well, and to kind of bring it full circle, sitting here with representatives from 3 different breweries up in Flagstaff, the beer scene up here is pretty awesome, because for the most part, you can kind of walk from spot to spot. Can't get to your brewery by walking, or unless you really want to make a trek out there. And of course, Wanderlust is a little bit farther than, say, here to Lumberyard. But you guys all seem to work really nicely together. You have the brew trail. You typically do the Flagstaff 8. Is that something you're doing this year? The collaborative beer?
I don't I don't know if we are doing it this year.
We did. You know, at the end of last year when we did it, and then we'll spark that up and do that again this year. So
Okay.
You know, and I think like when you talk about the relationships that we have is it's a mutual respect of each other for what we're brewing, you know, how we're doing it, things like that. And it's whether it's basic core styles or whether it's, you know, like Zach's saying, the lagers that they're doing right now. There's always something cool going on at each brewery. So even like if I pop around town, I like to see what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's just a mutual respect because everybody's really successful and everybody's really brewing world-class beers. And I think that's what's important. It'd be different if someone was dead weight in town, but that's just not the case at all.
Sure,
there's just
absolutely.
a lot of cool stuff going on.
So jumping down to you, I know you said that you don't have any beers in the work for Beer Week specifically right now, but if someone's going to come up and grab Pizzicato Pie, do you have any recommendations of top beers that you like that are on the tap list right now?
Oh, yeah, of course. So currently right now we brewed, I believe it's been on tap for maybe a week, if that. It's a Tmave Pivo, which is a Czech-style dark lager. Absolutely fantastic. So it really bridges that gap of like light, refreshing, crispy beers you might drink in the summer, but also contains a lot of that kind of richer, roastier, heartier beer that you get out of like a stout or something like that in the cold months. That's definitely a favorite of mine right now. We also just tapped over the weekend Party Wave, which is a reoccurring sour IPA we make. This particular batch is super unique because we threw a whole bunch of other just excess beer we had that wasn't selling into the fermenter, added some more of our sour culture to it. Contains Blood of Our Enemies, which is one of our more popular sour IPAs that we make. And it just came out absolutely fantastic. It really has a lot of uniqueness to it. And then even beyond that, I think at the Beer Garden we still have Purple Sun tapped right now, which is a barrel-aged gin and blueberry sour. So
is that a mixed or like a wild fermentation?
Not wild well, I mean, depending on how you want to define those lines, it is a mixed fermentation sour. So we have a 7-barrel foeder in our downtown location that we use primarily for sour culture. And we'll just feed it some wort every now and then and just make sure it keeps happy, essentially. And if it runs out of like that oomph you get from those barrel-aged sours, we'll add a little more sour culture, something like that, just to essentially just continually evolving it. So, and it's both a point of contention as well as a uniqueness for us, is where, you know, we'll get those customers that do come in and be like, well, I drank this Rainy Days a month ago and this one doesn't taste the same. It's like, it's kind of the point. That's how Dark Sky has always been. You know, the first 3 years we were open, we prided on ourselves of brewing 100 unique beers every year. And so, again, from a production standpoint, it does make things a little complicated because you want to be able to provide a beer to your customer, your customer base that's going to satisfy them every single time. But we still want to be able to keep kind of like our core idea of having unique beers every single time we brew it. Even if it's just changing up the hop blend or something like that, it's always going to be slightly different, and that's really what Dark Sky is at its core.
Sure. Well, and it kind of creates an experience that, you know, when I go into Lumberyard, one of my favorite beers is First Light. And so, you know, I always know that's going to be the same, but when you go into a spot like your guys, you kind of are forced into wanting to experiment with the beers that you're trying. Maybe get a flight instead of just getting a pint if that's normally what you would do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, as with most breweries in Flagstaff, I do feel like it is a very large touristy kind of location, and so we do have those people that come in that have never been in. And anytime I work front of house, it's always like, hey, have you ever been in before? No, the first time. And it's something that's been open since 2014, 2015, which is young in comparison to some of the other breweries in town. It's always surprising. You know, obviously, it's a large country and large world, so there's always going to be people that have never been in before.
Sure. But
it still, again, creates a unique atmosphere and does, like you'd said, push people to try to experiment a little bit more.
Absolutely. So, Ken, do you guys have any Beer Week specific beers, or not even necessarily just for Beer Week, but maybe some one-off seasonal beers that you don't normally have?
Yeah, and we just did a collaboration with Mother Brewing Company here in town.
Nice.
And called it Brew City Bock. It's a 7.8%, Doppelbock. It's really cool. It's nice and toasty, a little malt to it, a little bit of sweetness. Brewed absolutely the style that we brewed at our place. And we'll have that on from now until Beer Week.
Nice.
And it's tasting great. And it was nice that we, a lot of times we're looking to hopefully do some more collaborations with people in town because it's fun to do. And so that was cool that we did that with Mother Road, and we've sent some kegs out into the market as well that we'll have for Beer Week for people to pick up something different. And then of course we have the events that we do, each year at our place, and we're hoping to bring back the whiskey and beer pairing this year.
Okay.
And then we always host that in the back. We'll sell tickets, and we'll be not commenting, but just letting people know more about that once we get it scheduled. We'll do pint nights and things like that.
How do you do that? How do you put together a whiskey and beer pairing?
Well, I get one of our brewers, and I get generally get a whiskey purveyor from one of the liquor companies in town.
Okay.
So it could be someone from Diageo or William Grant and Sons or something like that, where they can kind of come together collaboratively and pair those together. My palate's two opposite directions of those things, but luckily we have a couple brewers who also like whiskey as well as
nice
as well as that. So we'll do whiskeys or scotch, or we'll do some different things, but that's always a cool one because they do, when you ask like, how do you do that? Well, they kind of explain it in that setting.
I feel like brewers who like whiskey is a pretty common occurrence from what I've seen.
Yeah, I know a lot of salespeople who like whiskey as well. So yeah, it's something that's agreeable for sure.
I also like whiskey. Do you have a favorite whiskey that you are hoping to see in the pairings this year?
As far as, it just depends who we partner with. But I always like some of the Irish whiskeys. I love Tullamore Dew, that I could do a little bit of that on the rocks. And that's just kind of a family thing that's kind of that little bit that we would have here and there.
That's 7% Irish?
Yeah, that's 7% Irish, yeah. And then if you go Scottish, I always like Glenfiddich's always a nice one. I was able to tour that facility a few years back. It's just killer.
Oh,
so you
nice.
kind of feel like you bring some of that history home in a bottle, and it's you can kind of tell a story with it, which is part of what we do is we romanticize the beers we brew, and some of the things we pair with it is about telling a story, who we are,
sure.
who you are in a glass, and what you become known for. So it's cool to have those things that come along with the experience that you get at one of the local breweries here in Flagstaff.
Absolutely. And what about you, Zach? Do you guys have any special beers right now?
Yes. So we are doing a collaboration with Lowell Observatory for their
nice.
Pluto Festival. So we're doing, it's a blueberry sour, and we're going to call it Pluto Sky. So that guy just went into the fermenter. Along with that one, I'm getting my Bear Arms Imperial Stout out again. I try and do that every year. It's a big favorite. And this year we went big. Let my brewers play around. So we're going for 11%, which is push my mash tun all the way to the limit. Made a little bit of a mess, but I think it's definitely worth it.
Any other like events or other beers that are in the works?
I'm trying to think of what the last one I just mashed in with. White IPA. That was the last one. I let one of our brewers design that recipe. I like to do that and let everybody be a little creative instead of me just taking the charge all the time. So we have that white IPA. And then as for events, we don't have anything set in stone, but we're always going to have some kind of pairing here.
Okay.
Either with a local restaurant or we've done different bakeries before and stuff like that. So we haven't nailed it down yet, but there's definitely going to be events here downtown at this location.
Yeah, well, and I'll take that as a chance to remind everyone, please follow Dark Sky, Lumberyard, Beaver Street, Historic on Instagram. Check out their websites and whatnot. So as we do roll closer in to Beer Week itself, you can be updated on all the events and other things that they put together. But you said you mashed in a white IPA. What exactly is that?
So my take on it is it's an IPA with a lot of wheat. In my head, it's like if you took a Belgian wheat beer recipe and then made it into an IPA. We didn't have an available yeast strain that I'd like to. I'm just kind of limited on that in-house. Normally what I would do, it'd be like a wheat beer actual yeast strain as well, and then you just hop it up. We weren't able to do that this year, just timing-wise. It was kind of a spur-of-the-minute thing. So just do it a regular ale yeast, but yeah, high fruity flavors, lots of wheat to it, kind of balanced bitterness, but a lot of fruit to it.
Okay, nice.
I'm probably going to throw some guava into it as well.
Oh, really? That sounds tasty. Yeah, right? Who doesn't love a little fruit in some beer? As long as it's not too overwhelming.
Yes.
So you guys have all mentioned kind of collaborations and things that you've been working on along those lines. For someone who's never witnessed a beer collaboration actually take place, what is that like from your guys' perspectives, and what's your favorite part of it?
Truthfully, it's a lot of standing around, as with any brew day. You know? Brewing is very much hurry up and wait. Just little moments of flurried activity, and then you kind of like, all right, cool, now we got to wait for this to boil. Cool, we can throw some stuff. So, but collaborative days are always great because you get a lot of outside knowledge. Every brewery, I feel like, kind of gets set in their own SOPs and ways that they do something. So to have someone come from the outside and be like, well, this is how we do it. I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. That can help out or kind of change the balance of things a little bit. But yeah, it's always fun. It's just a lot of bullshitting and hanging around and talking, and then little spurts of work. And then in a month or so, you get an awesome beer at the end of it.
Would you guys agree with that sentiment?
Yes.
Yes.
My sales guys, they love it because they don't have to work. They just stand around and drink all day.
Yeah.
So they always try to pitch them. I know, right?
There's always
That
one
does
person,
happen, yeah.
too, that is running around like the crazy person for the day while everyone else is just kind of hanging around doing hot scotchies and stuff like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures too.
Yeah.
Mandatory
Yeah.
pictures.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because I was actually shooting a collaboration that Mother Road is doing with Moto Sonora for Beer Week today, and experienced that exact thing, which I knew it's like that from other times. But it's funny because, you mentioned how different breweries have different standards in the way that they do things, and every brew system is totally different. So, to see the way that hops are getting dumped in and the way things are timed out and all that, it's always exciting from my standpoint of trying to figure out what the hell is going on, since I'm not a commercial brewer, and trying to pin down those exciting moments, as short-lived as they may be.
Well, and I think too, when you talk about some of the collaborative things that you do, it's trying to find an overlap to a different customer base or to draw interest in. So, for example, Mother Road did their collaborative, basically their conserve and protect with Game and Fish. Mm-hmm. I mean, that brings in people from both, the brewery and from Game and Fish, followers that kind of, they overlap and they make sense to do. With Hazy Angel, our new 12-ounce cans, we're partnering with American Rivers that protect watershed, rivers and watersheds across the U.S. And we're focusing with just the Southwest chapter. So from that standpoint, water is important to us, and we feel like we partner with them, and so there'll be some collaborative things there that that way we kind of help each other out as partners as far as exposure, and then it creates a cool vibe around what you're producing, right? There's almost a spirit of, conservation, to the spirit of, passing it on to the next generation, or brewer to brewer, how things are a little different, like these guys were saying. So I think that's a neat part of a collaborative thing. If I see something on the board that there's a brewery called Southgate Brewing Company out of Yosemite, and they partnered with Stone, and so I saw that, and it's like they may have had very little overlap, but the fact that they partnered together and there was some conversation, I was really interested in that, because two breweries I really respect and think are cool.
Yeah, totally. That's one of the interesting things about beer collaborations is it's not like they are hard to find, right? There's collaborations all over the place, but the stories that are being told by them are so unique a lot of the time. Like the one that Mother Road was doing today is based around the fact that they both have cars built into their culture. What you're talking about is obviously very conservation based. So it's exciting to be able to enjoy beers and taste the story, if you will, of those beers across whatever it may be, whether it's, between two breweries up here or a charitable effort or something like that.
Well, and like I mentioned, the two breweries there, it's kind of like going to see, I don't know, your favorite band and your second favorite band opens up for them. Right, so you can. There's that piece there. It's kind of the same thing, right? So,
or like when you find out about a new band, when the band that opened up for them is someone you've never heard before.
Right.
Like I was not familiar with the charitable organization that you mentioned. What is the name of it again?
It's American Rivers.
American Rivers. So I've heard of other ones, but that one specifically is now on my radar, which it wasn't.
AmericanRivers.org, and it's a group that they deal with a lot of breweries, but water's important to us, and well, everybody out here in the Southwest. But anything we could do to kind of further that messaging.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So is there anything you guys are specifically looking forward to for Beer Week besides drinking some beer and hanging out with friends?
I mean, we may not have the plans set in stone yet, but we always do wind up doing a lot of unique things for Beer Week. So, and it's a great week in general. I feel like almost starts to tip towards that winter ending type phase in Flagstaff. So the weather changing a little bit, be able to be on the beer garden again, the patio, enjoy the sights and drink a beer and stuff like that. So to be able to have some unique beers out there, whether they're barrel aged or just, quick turn and burn beers, whatever they may be, that at least for us excites us, I think.
And you guys had music yesterday. Is that something that will continue through? Yeah.
So music happens pretty much every Sunday and Monday between the two locations, depending upon what's going on. I know tonight at the beer garden there's an artist coming in, and then I believe also at the tap room. So jazz, I believe, still happens. I'm kind of not quite up to date with all the events going on. Stephanie, our event coordinator, has been just drilling through different things here and there. We have Paints and Pints. There's a local painting company that comes in and does like little showcase things. Like you pay, I think it's like $30, and you come in, you get a pint of beer, and you get the canvas and everything you need to paint art. So like perfect little gifts for family or friends, whatever it may be. So yeah, there's always something going on, and Stephanie, she's obviously way more in tune with that because that's her job, So, but yeah, there's always something going on.
Well, let's get a quick message in, and then we'll run through a few more of the things that you guys are looking forward to. Real quick message for you guys. If you guys are enjoying today's episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our email newsletter for all of the cool spots to eat and drink around town, as well as upcoming events and fun stuff like that. Also, we've got some brand new merch on our website, including these "Thanks for supporting local" hats and 2 brand new t-shirts. So make sure to check out our website for more. Now back to the podcast. Alrighty, so jumping back into it, we've actually swapped out one of our guests for a new guest. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself and who you're with?
Yeah, my name is Jeff Thorset. I'm the founder of Flagstaff Brewing Company.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about Flagstaff Brewing Company.
Well, we opened up in 1994 while we were pretty young and dumb, and just been going at it ever since. We're just a small brew pub, place with a great kitchen, a great selection of beers, wonderful outdoor patio. We like to showcase other people's beers as well. And that was more of a factor of the fact that we couldn't keep up with brewing back in the day. So we've always had a few other beers on tap, hopefully from Arizona, independent breweries from Arizona. Just kind of a old classic ale brew house. We dabble in some lagers here and there, but traditionally just making ales and it's a funky old place. We're in a building from 1896 or 1894. So it's right downtown. It's kind of a great place to go people watching and sitting on the patio drinking beers and enjoying the beautiful weather we have here. It's been fun. I mean, we're entering into our 29th. Well, we're in our 29th year now.
Nice.
So it's been an adventure and learned a lot about beer and about this industry. And
sure.
Thank goodness we're in a town like Flagstaff that has such a supportive brew culture, amongst the people that are brewing, and also just a fantastic customer base. People in Flagstaff dig their beer, and it's great to see the changes that have happened in those almost 3 decades.
Absolutely. Well, and it's cool too because you are right across Route 66 and the train tracks from Lumberyard.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Flag Brew was the first Flagstaff brewery I'd ever been to, and this was many years ago before I had kind of immersed myself in the industry more. But you guys are right there on the road. It's one of the easiest breweries to see if you're just driving through town. And not only do you have great food and beer, but you also do music shows as well, correct?
Yeah, we do. This time of year, we're just doing Friday and Saturday shows. Here and there, we'll do a Sunday afternoon show. But music is a big part of it too. In fact, my band's playing on the 4th of February, I think.
Oh, really? So, okay, nice.
Somehow the entertainment director still books me, but
what do you play?
I play the electric guitar.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And so what, like you mentioned a little bit about your beers that you brew ales and whatnot. Do you have a specific beer on your tap list that's your favorite, maybe a go-to?
Yeah, I think currently the go-to is our porter. It's one of the beers that we opened with. It's pretty approachable for a dark beer. It's got some good dark malt notes, some toasty notes, and it's real smooth. And this is the time of year to be drinking it, I think. It just goes good with cold weather. It's just maintained its popularity over the years, and nothing really has changed with that beer. And
nice.
So we're pretty proud of that one. The go-to forever was our original IPA. It's more backed off than what you would see in a West Coast IPA. I mean, it tends to be a little more English in style, not so hop in your face kind of beer. We do have those, but I think that our standard IPA is called Bubba Ganoush, and it's yet again another beer that we brewed right at the beginning. Back in 94. So it's stuck around. We do dabble in that West Coast IPA. We call ours a Southwest IPA, kind of in jest. It is a West Coast IPA. But and you'll find a lot of the traditional styles on our list. We have certainly an amber ale that's been around. It's pretty popular. Kind of a medium-bodied 5.2% beer that back in the day I think they would call those crossover beers back in the 90s, just something to get you into craft beer. And that's a good one, and of course we we have an ESB that's wildly popular, especially in the summertime. That gets you a little more hop up front. Let's see. Nowadays, it's every time I look up at the list of beers, it's like, what's going on in the brew house? I stepped away about 5 years ago to hit the office, sadly. But my brewer currently, he likes exploring a lot of the pale ales and whatnot.
Nice.
And he really has made a push for lagers. We tend to have one lager on tap now.
Very nice.
So yeah,
I remember it very specifically. The ESB is the beer I had when I came in many years ago, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's a good one. And it's light, and you don't feel like you're getting overdone with alcohol by drinking a pint of that. It's a good one. It's got a good balance.
It's good brewer's beer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When I see an ESB on the wall, I always go to grab one.
Right. Because you're not going to get all drunk and not be able to do your job.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about your patio and Flag Brew, like the first craft pint that I had in Flagstaff going back in the day was at your place with Jim Parsons.
Oh yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah, those were the days, man. So, but just it's a testament to what you guys do and how well you do it. So it's great.
Thank you.
Do you guys have anything specific going on for Beer Week?
Not that. We're gonna do probably what we did last year. We did we do have a gigantic selection of whiskey from Scotch to bourbon to Irish whiskey. What we did last year was come up with a nice pairing. You get like little half shots of a bunch of stuff that we were recommending to pair with particular beers. I think that there's been talk about bringing that back. Last year also we did we have a fantastic head chef now, and she likes to get creative. And what we did last year was come up with tapas, like little plates of food that she wanted to showcase paired with beer as well. So I think we're going to kind of maintain that same deal for Beer Week this year. Like other people were saying, we're not really set in stone quite yet. We're always a little bit late to the party, obviously, like today. But we'll get something together for sure. And we certainly will have some music that weekend as well.
Well, yeah, and whether everyone has their stuff locked in or not, you can be sure that if you come up here for Beer Week, once Beer Week is actually here, there will be no shortage of things going on, whether it be whiskey tastings or pairings that you two may need to swap tickets for the Lumberyard and Flag Brew one, or live music or beer releases and things like that. Before my final question for you guys, is there anything else you want to mention about Beer Week or just stuff that you have going on in general right now?
I mean, I would just say the lead up of, with Strong Beer Week, it takes you to Strong Beer Festival. And I think, that's, to me, that's my favorite festival of the year. It's the premier beer event in the Southwest. It's, perfect time, perfect weather. We're out at Salt River Fields this year, so it's going to be really nice. It's going to be easy to load in for vendors, easy access for patrons that are coming. And there's going to be, as many great beers as ever. It's, so I can't say enough about that. So it's nice that all these Beer Week events that lead to that point that kind of build this tide, this crescendo to actually hit that on strong beer.
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast and are a beer lover, specifically of Arizona beers, and you don't have tickets to Strong Beer Festival, then you got to hop online and get them now, because it is the premier beer festival in Arizona, and whether you guys will be there or not, people get to run into people just like you.
Yeah, it's the premier event in the Southwest. I mean, the breweries that are there are not just Arizona. Mm-hmm. It's from all across the country. There's a few international beers that show up there, and really they even bring some of their best stuff out as well. So if you're looking for something different that you can't find on a handle at your favorite craft bar, you certainly can get it there.
Yeah, absolutely, because the name Strong Beer is referring to higher ABV beers, stronger beers. So you get some of the classics. I imagine you guys are bringing down some of your flagships, but also some unique one-offs as well.
Yeah, we'll have a cherry sour. We'll have our Scotch ale. We'll have the Bock that we brewed with Mother Road, and then kind of whatever else I can coax out of the back room.
Yeah, there's really no better way of trying a variety of Arizona beers, because even other festivals, you don't typically see people bring in 3-4 different beers to the festival, which is one of my favorite parts about strong beer. So my final question for you guys is, in the spirit of Flagstaff beer camaraderie, are there any beers from other breweries, not the ones that you represent, that are some of your favorites to sip on if you're out and about town?
I'm sipping on this Salt River Lager right now that I really like. I think it's really nice. It looks great in the glass. It tastes great. That's an easy one to drink. That's a winner. So it's not the first time I've had it. It won't be the last.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a favorite. Like, I just like going and trying new different things and just seeing what's going on.
I agree. I mean, that's the beauty of Flagstaff. You can just pop into one of these breweries and try whatever. And I really haven't ever found a beer I don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of on a treasure hunt. There's really nothing like you said. You can't really go wrong. There's a lot of different things. So.
Yeah. Well, that's like, not only is there a bunch of different breweries up here, 8 to be specific, I guess, not quite a bunch, but several different breweries up here that are within walking distance, but each spot having its own mentality. We talked earlier about kind of how Dark Sky does things. It's been a while since I've had First Light, and when I was in yesterday and had it, I was like, man, I really like this beer. This is a fantastic beer. Of course, you guys have Pie Hole Porter, which is extremely popular, and then the beer that Ken is drinking right now. And like I mentioned, your guys is ESB. So it's cool how you can bounce around town and have, an ESB to a fruited sour to a mixed culture fermentation, all the different things that are going on up here.
And then sidecar some whiskey on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking about all things Flagstaff beer and Beer Week. And unless you have anything else to say, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Thanks for hosting, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Happy New Year.